The galaxy had many monsters, but only one made entire systems go silent. When his shadow appeared on long-range scanners, trade lanes closed. Defense fleets powered down instead of powering up. Governments erased colonies from their maps and called it strategic retreat. No one argued. No one ever survived long enough to argue. They called him many things. World Breaker. Star Eater. The Alien Dragon. He was vast beyond reason. His body coiled like living armor, black and scarred, wings wide enough to eclipse stations. His eyes burned like dying suns. His presence bent instruments and minds alike. Crews reported headaches, fear, and a pressure in the chest just from being near him. Some ships lost power. Others lost their crews to panic before the first shot was fired. There were stories of planets left cracked and glowing, of fleets torn apart in minutes. The dragon never spoke. He never demanded surrender. He simply arrived, and destruction followed. So when a deep space listening post near the frontier began screaming alerts, no one was surprised. What shocked them was not the dragon. It was what was near him. The station's sensors struggled to focus. Static washed across the displays. Officers shouted readings back and forth, recalibrating again and again. The dragon was there, unmistakable, drifting near the remains of a shattered outpost. Wreckage floated like dust around him. Then a junior analyst froze. "There's something else," she said quietly. No one listened at first. All eyes were on the massive shape dominating the screen. Then she spoke again, louder, her voice shaking. "There's a life sign. Small. Human." The command deck went silent. Human colonies did not exist this far out anymore. They had been wiped out years ago during the border wars. Survivors had been evacuated or confirmed dead. There were no missing ships. No signals. No records of anyone living near Dragon territory. And yet the readings were clear. A single human child. Commanders leaned forward. Sensors zoomed in as far as they dared. Between drifting metal and scorched hull plates, there was movement. Something tiny compared to the monster beside it. A girl. She was small, wrapped in oversized clothing. Her hair was tied back in a simple, messy way. She moved carefully across the wreckage, as if she had done this many times before. She was not running. Not hiding. Not afraid. She was walking toward the dragon. Alarms erupted. Weapons officers shouted that firing solutions were impossible. Diplomats demanded immediate withdrawal. Scientists argued the data had to be wrong. No one could explain why the dragon had not already killed her. The alien dragon shifted slightly. Even that small movement sent waves through space. Plates along his neck flexed. His wings adjusted, blocking distant starlight. Any fleet would have been annihilated just by being that close. The girl stopped near his massive foreclaw. To the galaxy, it looked like a mouse standing before a mountain. The dragon lowered his head. Gasps filled the command deck. Some thought it was the start of an attack. Others shut their eyes, unable to watch. But no fire came. No shockwave. The dragon simply waited. The girl reached out and touched the edge of his claw. Her hand was tiny, pale against dark, ancient armor. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against him for a moment, as if tired. The dragon did not move. Scanners showed something impossible. His energy output dropped. Weapons signatures, if such things could even be measured, went dormant. The crushing pressure that usually surrounded him faded, just a little. Commanders stared in disbelief. This was not fear. The dragon had never feared anything. This was restraint. The girl sat down beside him, swinging her legs over empty space like a child sitting on a dock. She pointed at the wreckage, then at him, chattering softly. The audio sensors barely picked up her voice, but it was light. Normal. Human. Like this was home. Hours passed. The dragon remained still, coiled protectively around the area. No ships approached. No one dared. Messages spread faster than official channels could suppress them. A monster was guarding a child. A child was alive in the shadow of the galaxy's greatest terror. No one knew how long she had been there. No one knew where she came from. All they knew was that the dragon who burned worlds had not burned her. As the station finally cut its feed, one officer whispered what everyone was thinking but no one dared say aloud. If he wanted us gone, we'd already be dead. The truth settled like cold air across the galaxy. Whatever the alien dragon was, whatever he had become, there was now something he refused to destroy. And the galaxy had just found his secret. No one in the galaxy slept after the footage spread. Official channels tried to lock it down. They failed. Civilian relays, smugglers, and independent observatories passed the images faster than any censorship could stop them. A human child. Alive. Calm. Sitting beside the most feared creature ever recorded. Experts argued through the night. Some said the dragon was studying her. Some said she was bait, placed there by an unknown enemy. Some said it was a delayed kill, a cruel game before destruction. No one believed the truth yet. A coalition observation vessel was dispatched, not to approach, but to watch from extreme range. Its crew was chosen carefully. Veterans. No one prone to panic. No weapons charged. Engines kept cold, ready to flee at the smallest sign of attention. They watched. The girl woke from sleep curled against the dragon's side, wrapped in fabric far too big for her. She yawned. She rubbed her eyes. She climbed onto his forelimb like it was a familiar chair. The dragon adjusted his body around her without thinking. A wing shifted to block radiation from a nearby star. His massive tail moved debris away from her path. These were not calculated movements. They were instinctive. The crew stared in silence. "She's not afraid," one observer whispered. "No," another replied. "She's comfortable." The girl hopped down and walked across the wreckage, humming to herself. She stopped near a broken bulkhead, struggled with it for a moment, then gave up. She turned back toward the dragon and waved both arms. "Dad." The word was clear. Simple. Human. The observation vessel erupted into chaos. What did she say? Replay that. Did she just? Audio confirmed it. No distortion. No translation needed. "Dad." The dragon froze. Not the way prey freezes. Not the way warriors pause before killing. His entire body locked, as if the word itself had struck him harder than any weapon ever had. Then, slowly, carefully, he lowered his head until one massive eye was level with the child. His voice, when it came, was not thunder. It was quiet. "I see it," he said. The girl smiled, wide and proud. She pointed again at the bulkhead, then made an exaggerated lifting motion with her arms. The dragon gently nudged the metal aside, exposing a small storage container beneath. The girl clapped. Observers felt something break inside them. This was not dominance. This was not control. This was not captivity. This was family. Records were searched frantically. Old war logs. Lost colony reports. Anything involving human evacuations near dragon territory. Most files ended in destruction or silence. Then a fragment surfaced. A civilian evacuation ship, damaged during the border wars, had vanished years ago near this region. It had been written off as destroyed. The manifest listed one child survivor, unaccounted for. Name redacted. Age, 3. The timestamps matched. The truth began to form, slow and terrifying. The dragon had found her first. The observation vessel watched as the girl crawled onto the dragon's snout and sat there, legs dangling, talking non-stop. He listened. Patiently. Carefully. Like every word mattered. A distant patrol ship crossed into sensor range by mistake. The dragon noticed instantly. His head lifted. His body shifted. The space around him grew heavy again, pressure returning like a held breath released. The girl felt it too. She frowned and patted his face. "No," she said firmly. "Bad." The dragon stilled. The patrol ship retreated at full burn, its captain screaming apologies into the void. The pressure vanished. Silence returned. On the observation vessel, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, the commander removed his headset and said the words that changed galactic policy forever. "He's not guarding territory," she said. "He's guarding her." Orders were rewritten within hours. Dragon space was reclassified. Not hostile. Not neutral. Protected. No approach. No provocation. No mistakes. Because the galaxy finally understood something far more dangerous than fire or claws. The most terrifying dragon ever known did not answer to fear. He answered to a small human voice. And when she said "Dad," the universe listened. The moment the feeds went public, the galaxy stopped pretending. There was no more debate about tricks or traps. No one could watch the recordings, hours of quiet, ordinary moments, and still believe the human girl was a prisoner. She laughed. She complained. She grew bored. She acted exactly like a child who felt safe. And the dragon endured it all. He did not flinch when she climbed over his horns. He did not grow angry when she tapped his scales to hear the different sounds. He remained still when she fell asleep against his chest, her small breathing steady against armor that had shattered cities. For the first time in recorded history, the alien dragon was predictable. He moved only for her. That made him more frightening than ever. A diplomatic coalition formed in secret. Not to threaten. Not to negotiate. To understand. If the galaxy made a single mistake, entire civilizations could vanish. And now they knew the truth. The dragon was no longer alone. A research probe was sent closer than any vessel had ever dared. It drifted slowly, broadcasting its peaceful status on every known frequency. No weapons. No sudden movements. Just observation. The dragon noticed immediately. Space bent. Instruments screamed. The probe should have been destroyed. It wasn't. The dragon turned his head slightly, watching it approach. The girl was sitting on his foreclaw, drawing lines in frost with a piece of metal. She looked up. "Bug," she said, pointing at the probe. The dragon's tail twitched. He angled his body so the probe's path would not pass too close to her. That was all. The probe's data flooded in. Heart rate elevated, but controlled. Muscle tension, localized, not aggressive. Energy reserves, vast, restrained. One scientist whispered, "He's holding back everything." Another replied, "For her." Then the impossible happened. The girl slipped. Her foot caught on drifting debris. For half a second, she was falling, spinning slowly away from the dragon's body. Every sensor spiked. The dragon moved. Not like a beast. Not like a weapon. Like a parent who thought they had lost their child. Space warped as he lunged. His claws snapped shut around her, gentle but precise, pulling her back against his chest. Shockwaves rippled outward, knocking the probe into a wild spin. The girl laughed. "Too fast," she said, patting his claw. The dragon did not relax. He curled completely around her, wings folding tight, body forming a living shell. His breathing was heavy. Uneven. Something no one had ever recorded from him before. Fear. Not fear for himself. Fear of losing her. Across the galaxy, militaries went to full alert. Not because of the dragon's aggression, but because they had just seen his limit. And it wasn't rage. It was attachment. Analysts ran simulations late into the cycle. If the girl were threatened, intentionally or by accident, the outcome was always the same. Total annihilation. Not targeted strikes. Not warnings. Uncontrolled response. One admiral said it plainly, "He's not dangerous because he's violent. He's dangerous because he cares." The girl, unaware of any of this, yawned and curled up beneath the dragon's chin. He lowered his head until it rested against the wreckage, sheltering her from drifting light and radiation. The probe drifted away, damaged but intact. No one tried again. That day, a new rule spread through every command structure, every charter, every hidden military doctrine. Never approach the dragon without her permission. Never threaten the child. Never make the dragon choose. Because the galaxy finally understood the truth it should have seen from the start. The dragon did not rule space. The girl did. And she ruled it with a single word. Dad. The truth did not arrive all at once. It came in fragments. Old reports pulled from forgotten servers. Logs that had survived only because no one bothered to delete them. Data that had never mattered, until now. Historians stopped arguing about what the dragon was and began asking what he had been. The earliest confirmed attacks were mapped again. Not just where he appeared, but when. The pattern had always been strange. His path across the stars never made sense as conquest. He did not take territory. He did not build. He did not rule. He circled. Always the same region. Always the same few systems. Like a boundary drawn in fire. Inside that boundary, destruction followed anyone who crossed it. Outside, the galaxy was left untouched. That boundary was centered on one thing. The child. A damaged civilian transport record was finally reconstructed in full. The ship had been fleeing a collapsing colony during the border wars. Engines failing. Communications lost. Emergency pods launched into open space. Most pods were destroyed by debris. One drifted. Life support barely holding. A child inside, too young to understand why the stars had gone quiet. No rescue signal ever reached human space. But something else had been close enough to hear her cry. The dragon had been there long before the galaxy learned his name. Sensor echoes suggested he had been wounded then, deep scars that matched early military weapons. He should have ignored the pod. Every model of his species suggested he would have. Instead, he stayed. The first confirmed attack attributed to him happened days later. A pirate fleet entered the region, following the debris trail from the destroyed transport. None of them survived. At the time, it was labeled a random act of destruction. It wasn't. It was the first warning. After that, every so-called massacre followed the same rule. Fleets that approached the region vanished. Colonies that tried to exploit nearby systems burned. Research stations that moved too close were erased. But worlds far away, worlds that posed no threat, were ignored completely. The dragon was not waging war. He was enforcing distance. The girl grew during that time. Slowly. Safely. Records showed her development matched a human child raised in stable conditions. Nutrition was adequate. Stress indicators were low. How a dragon accomplished that was still being debated. But one thing was clear. He learned. He learned restraint because fragile things break. He learned patience because children ask questions. He learned silence because loud things frighten the small. The galaxy had mistaken adaptation for cruelty. The dragon's fire was not hatred. It was fear, turned outward. A final piece fell into place when linguistic experts analyzed his speech. His language had changed over time. Early recordings were harsh, clipped, inefficient. Later ones were slower. Softer. Built around repetition and reassurance. Not meant for enemies. Meant for a child. She taught him how to speak to us, one historian said quietly. Galactic Council stopped using the word monster. They replaced it with something far more dangerous. Guardian. New policies were drafted in secret. Entire star charts were redrawn. The region around the dragon became a null zone. Not forbidden because of fear, but because of respect. No weapons tests. No mining. No exploration. Above all, no mistakes. Because the galaxy finally understood what it had been dealing with all along. Not an ancient evil. Not a living weapon. A father who had learned, the hard way, that the universe was hostile. And that if he wanted his child to live, he would have to make it afraid of him. The galaxy changed quietly. There was no grand announcement. No speeches filled with shame or pride. Orders were simply updated. Borders were redrawn. Old plans were deleted without explanation. Captains were briefed in sealed rooms and left pale and silent. Dragon space was no longer marked in red. It was marked in white. Do not enter. Do not observe closely. Do not interfere. Not because of threat. Because of consequence. The girl grew. Time passed in small moments that no council could control. She learned to read using scavenged screens and patient repetition. She learned numbers by counting stars that drifted past. She learned right and wrong the way all children do, by watching what the adults around her chose to protect. The dragon watched everything. He learned when to speak and when to stay silent. He learned the meaning of promises, because she remembered them. He learned gentleness, because she was breakable. He learned fear, not of death, but of absence. He never left her alone again. When storms of radiation passed, his wings shielded her. When debris fields shifted, his body became a wall. When ships strayed too close, he did not attack unless they refused to leave. Most learned quickly. A few did not. Those incidents were brief. Final. Never discussed publicly. The girl asked questions as she grew older. About the stars. About the ships that turned away. About why he never let her drift too far. He answered honestly, in the way parents do when the truth is heavy but necessary. The galaxy is not kind, he told her once. But it can learn. She believed him. Years later, a human relief vessel stopped at the edge of dragon space. No weapons. No demands. Only a signal, repeated slowly, offering supplies and distance. The girl watched from the dragon's shoulder. Friends? She asked. Maybe, he said. She nodded. Okay. The ship stayed at the edge. It never crossed the line. It left supplies drifting gently, then turned away. Nothing bad happened. It was the first time. After that, others followed. Always careful, always respectful. The galaxy learned a new behavior. Not conquest. Not fear. Permission. The girl grew into a young woman beneath vast wings and endless stars. She knew she was human. She knew she was different. She knew she had been saved. She also knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was loved. When historians later wrote about that era, they struggled to explain it in simple terms. How the most feared being in existence stopped 1,000 wars without firing a single shot. How entire civilizations changed course because of one small life. In the end, they wrote the truth as clearly as they could. The galaxy did not survive because the dragon was powerful. It survived because the dragon was a father. And because a tiny human girl, lost in the dark, once looked at a monster and chose to call him Dad.